The state of US Fintech is jamming. We're going into 2020 coming off a killer year. The state of US Fintech, and this is as of 2020, there's always this line that happens, a mic drop moment in the State of the Union address that the president gives. And I don't care what president it is. They always say the state of the union is fine. Everybody stands up and claps. I'm not going to comment on the political environment or the social environment in the U.S. What I will say is the state of U.S. Fintech is jamming. We're going into 2020 coming off a killer year. In 2019, we saw about $18 billion in venture capital investment in the U.S. That's up $5 billion from the previous year. So I know we hear a lot about what's happening in China, as we should, what's happening in Europe, but in the U.S., still a ton of interest in the VC space, if you think about that. What really is striking when you think about that statistic is overall VC investment across all industries last year dropped by 9%. So think about that, a $5 billion jump in investment money across US fintech companies. That's a good year. I think it'd be interesting. Let's take a look at what the top 10 fintechs are in the US. And this is really by their valuation. And that'll kind of give us an idea of where the money is going, but also where the customers are actually looking for solutions. So the largest one is Stripe. I don't think that should shock anybody. Outside of Ant Financial, Stripe is the largest fintech company in the world, valued at roughly about $35 billion. And in my opinion, I'd say across 11FS, Stripe can do no wrong. Incredible company. I think their future is just incredibly bright. The next two are interesting though, because they jump into crypto. It's Ripple. Yes, Ripple, and Coinbase. You're looking at about $10 and $8 billion in value right there. So cryptocurrency in the US and the underlying infrastructure there doing incredibly well. Next couple I don't think are that shocking. It'd be Robinhood. So again, now we're talking about actually playing around in the market. I will go ahead and say I'm a Robinhood customer. Found it to be incredibly easy to use. Now you're looking at about $7.6 billion in assets. Then you get into the big challenger bank in the US, even though they're not a bank, as Sarah Kachansky would say, and that is Chime. Chime has been a sweetheart in the news all year long. This is the challenger bank, if you will, out of San Francisco that I think is saying they have about over 5 million customers now. Outside of Chime, now we get to kind of the smaller, if you will, of the top 10. You've got PLAID, or I should say Visa at this point, acquired by 5.3. Man, well done to that team, by the way. Then you've got SoFi, and now you're talking about student lending, but really smart with SoFi because they've expanded into other products. They're valued just under $5 billion. Then we drop down into Credit Karma. Personally, one of my favorite companies because Credit Karma, when they came in, really did democratize this idea of understanding my credit score and making my life easier. I love Credit Karma. They've been around a while, valued at about $4 billion. Then the last two I think are fascinating because I don't think a lot of our listeners or followers actually know about them. Opendoor, which is valued at about $3.8 billion. Opendoor is all around. If you're trying to sell a house in the US, you will love Opendoor. So now we're talking, which is dipping from fintech into real estate. And Root, which is around car insurance, of all things, valued at about $3.7. So when you look at those 10 companies, they cover all different aspects of somebody's financial lives. So the last year, I talked about how kick-ass it was. 2020 has started kick-ass. You talk about US Fintech. You've got Varo actually getting FDIC approval. So Varo, a challenger bank here in the US, which looks like they will get their first banking license in the US for a challenger. That's incredible news. Just yesterday, we found out LendingClub had acquired a small community bank in Massachusetts called Radius. So this is the first fintech actually acquiring a banking charter or buying a bank. And then we already talked about PLAID and Visa. I mean, the news is nonstop in the U.S. 2020 is going to be one hell of a year to see what takes place.